Hi everybody, I'm Paul Hubahib. Hope you are doing well. Today my guest is Shane Dixon. He's a Toronto, Ontario runner who has such a positive influence on social media. His journey has been an amazing one to where he is today, and I really hope you enjoy our chat. Welcome to Runversations One-on-One. Morning, Shane.
Morning, Paul. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Awesome, thanks.
Good, thanks for joining us today on Runversations.
No problem, and thanks for accommodating the earlier time slot due to my
Not a
work
problem.
schedule.
Not a problem. Is if we have the opportunity, then why not, right? It's a good opportunity, and I really wanted to connect with you to share your stories, share your journey with all the people that will be watching this. So
No problem. Happy to help.
great. So you know, I've been following you on social media for a long time. It's actually how we met, how we connected. And, I've often thought, what a great person to follow. You're such a positive individual, but at the same time, very real. And we talked about it just before this about people having these kind of masks and showing just one side of themselves on social media. But you really are a great individual to follow. Your running journey has been amazing. And so, actually, let's just start with that. So, how long have you been running?
Can never remember this. It's been about maybe 7 or 8 years. I've kind of lost track officially, but I think like I really got hooked on it about maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
Um, and then when I got into racing, that's kind of where I fell in love with it. But yeah, it's been I'd say for about 7 or 8 years, but seriously for about 4 or 5 years now.
And so, what got you into running?
Well, my dad was a runner when he was younger, but he had to stop because of some back issues. My brother was actually probably the biggest running influence in my life. So he'd been running for a long time and he'd been doing marathons and I was really cool the very first time I got to go to Scotiabank in Toronto to watch somebody finish a marathon. And
Right.
it was such an amazing moment seeing people, even just seeing regular people finish and having strangers helping them and cheering them on.
Right.
But then when I saw my brother, it was an awesome experience, and it started to plant the seed of me wanting to do it. Then I got a job at a cancer organization where we did a race for the Bang and Olufsen Yorkville Run for charity, and
Oh, yeah.
they asked me to run it. And reluctantly, I said yes. And then as soon as I crossed the finish line, I was hooked. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah. Did you expect to feel that way after that first run?
No one ever talks about it. Like when you see people running on the streets and doing training and even in races and things like that, you have no idea what it's like until you cross the finish line for the first time, whether it's 5K, 10K, it doesn't matter. And the cool thing is you get a similar feeling every time you finish a race, especially
Yes.
if you progress to different distances.
Yeah, yeah. And you kind of touched on it a bit, like, and I've often been a part of that perspective of watching people coming in through the finish line. Talk about, what you were seeing when you were watching these people come in.
I think my favorite part was seeing people just cheering on strangers, yelling out their names from their bibs, cheering for them, ringing their bells, yelling at them, encouraging them. It really was. If anyone else has been out there, obviously they've seen races finish. It's like a goosebump moment where
Right.
it's such a happy, amazing time to experience watching runners cross that finish line, especially in a marathon where you see some people down the final stretch really, really struggling. And sometimes
Yeah.
I've seen situations where people have collapsed from fatigue. I've
Right.
seen random strangers come out of the crowd to help carry them or cross them across the finish line.
Wow.
It's an amazing experience.
And I think, you can attest to this too, as you're approaching that finish line, and you talked about it, some people are just calling out your name, then you don't even know them, but they're calling out your name because of your bib. It's such a motivating factor to just keep pushing on.
Yeah, and actually, one of my favorite race experiences. I mean, I've had a bunch, but once I raced in Atlanta at the Georgia Peachtree 10K,
Yeah.
which is the largest 10K race in the world, and I'm a Canadian down in the US on the 4th of July. And when I did my race, I was wearing a bunch of Canadian outfit gear and stuff like that. But along the race course, people were high fiving me, people were yelling at me, people were cheering on, they were saying, "Go Canada," and just yelling out my name. And it was an amazing experience to this day.
And that's amazing. And I think it just shows you how supportive the running community is, right? They're cheering strangers on, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's the one thing I guess I underestimated when I got into running is you hear about physical, mental benefits, but the number one thing I like about it is the people I've met. Often
Absolutely.
people always talk about the world majors and all these big famous races and things like that. And that's fine. Everyone's got their own goal. But
For sure.
to me, I love all the people I've met. Some of my best friends, some of the most interesting, fun, kind people are a direct result of running and also social media as well.
Right. And so, what I've seen on your social media is you've actually gone through a huge transformation from the individual you were, I guess, when you said, 8, 9 years ago to now. And it's incredible. It's an amazing transformation. I really congratulate you on that because you've done such a good job, and not just physically, but I suspect mentally as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I like sharing it. Initially, when I started to share, I was one of those people that always wanted to make sure I looked okay in the photos, make sure I looked proper, the lighting was okay, blah, 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 right angles and everything like that. But then I started to look at those photos, and it's not that I was a bad person in those photos. It's just kind of a testament to how far I've come. But like 2011, that's kind of like the sweet spot for the years, pun
Yeah.
intended, because that's where I was eating a lot of sweets and stuff. Um, but the big things why I share those transformation stories, people either like them or they don't. And why I do it is because it's to show people out there, especially men, middle-aged men my age, that are struggling with issues, that you can do it. You don't like celebrities are one thing, but if they've got infinite resources and a lot of cash and they have all these trainers and cooks and things like that, it doesn't matter. People resonate more with
Yeah.
someone like myself that's a regular guy that just like to run. But the big thing that you can't see in those photos is it's the physical is one, but below the surface is the mental benefits that I experienced,
Right.
which I can't emphasize enough how tremendous they were.
And you talk about that transformation also being a part of your mental aspect. Now you're such a big mental health advocate, and I've seen a lot of the interviews that you've done for different people talking about mental health. And as we talked about before, we recently had Bell Let's Talk Day, but I think it's important to also have that discussion ongoing, not just on one day a year. It's such an important thing. And I think, when you talk about mental health, I think that's pretty, close to the trauma that's been happening from COVID, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's the big reason why I share my experiences with mental health, anxiety, depression, suicide, and things like that, is because um, it's funny. I'm normally although I'm very outgoing and seem extroverted, I'm pretty private about a lot of things about, especially my family, my relationships, my girlfriend, and things like that. I don't really post too much about that, but I do open up about other aspects of my life because I firmly want to help people, and
Right.
I'm positive that just by sharing my story, that there are people out there that I'm helping, even just by seeing a regular guy like me saying, "Oh, he's he's felt sad, he's cried, he's dealt with anxiety, he's dealt with suicidal thoughts," and it resonates really well with other people. And I've had lots of people message me, commending me on that, but I don't get anything out of doing this. I'm not
Mhm.
paid. I don't, I'm not doing anything for my job or anything like this.
Sure.
Um, it's the thing about social media is it takes a bad rap because it's filled with, especially the past couple of years, it's such a toxic, negative, mean-spirited world,
Yeah.
and I don't think that's what social media was intended. And so that's what I'm doing. Is my part is to give back and make it a more positive, welcoming, encouraging atmosphere. Because if all of us, including you, because you do this as well, and people like Jeannie and There's lots of people that we follow.
Yeah.
They're all positive. We all do that. It's going to spread like wildfire and make social media better. And that's why I talk about mental health. I talk about my physical transformation is purely on the hopes that I can help somebody out there.
What's the big difference between the guy now versus the guy 10 years ago?
That's a tough question to answer because I think a lot of people, when they see those transformation photos, especially people that are struggling with weight issues or mental health issues or maybe self-confidence issues and things like that, they look at those photos and they think, oh, you're only saying that you're happy because you lost weight and you're thin and you're better looking
Right.
and da 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 da
Right.
da. And people are negative. They're always going to look at that from that one narrow-minded view. But the reality is no. I That's not why I share those photos. Is I'm more happy. I'm more outgoing. I'm more positive. But it's important for everybody out there to realize I'm the same Shane I've always been, which is kind, caring. I'll put people before me any day,
Mm-hmm.
and the closer you are to me, um, the higher on the pedestal I put you, just because I care that much about the people in my life. But for me, it's just all about coming back to help people and opening up and sharing a vulnerable side of myself, that to let other people know that it's okay to do that.
And you talked about, you don't make money off of this, it's not a part of your job, but advocacy for mental health is such a huge thing, especially when it comes to men opening up about their own issues with regards to anxiety, stress, those issues that some men face. But you've been pretty open about how, your own struggles and the things that you've gone through. And, is these things important for men to really talk more about?
Absolutely. We just had Bell Let's Talk Day, and I'm not going to take anything away from it. It's an amazing day, and it does some fantastic things. It raises funds and awareness for an important cause. But I've mentioned this before. It's exactly like Valentine's Day, where it seems to be that one day where everyone gets a pass, where they haven't had a conversation about mental health. So they're like, oh, so I'm just going to use this one day to talk about it, which is fine. I'm
Yeah,
not going to criticize people for that, but you should be doing this stuff 365 days of the year, not just that one day.
exactly.
And for me, I think it's really important because uh, men historically have been stubborn, not willing to share things or open up. And although we're better now, we still have a long way to go. And
Yeah.
so there are a lot of people, especially in an older demographic. Like I'm 45. They're like suicide and depression can strike anybody, but I think it's especially challenging for middle-aged to older men because they feel um, this maybe the stigma about men opening up and sharing their feelings. So I'm here to just absolutely obliterate that stigma and make it easier for men to talk about it. There's an organization started by Michael Landsberg. It's called Sick Not Weak. It's true. I want to help other men out there and women, but especially men, open up and say, hey, it's okay to talk to people. It's okay to open up. It's okay to say you're sad. It's okay to go seek help. It's okay to take medication. Uh, and the whole thing about it is they think they're being less manly or inferior if they do that. But what they don't realize that it actually makes them stronger and makes them look better, and ultimately it will help their relationship with their family, their friends, and even themselves. Because although they're out there struggling in silence and not willing to talk to anybody about it, what they don't realize is if they do talk to somebody, you it's like the weight of the world lifted off your shoulders. It's not going to solve your problems right away. It's like a combination of things that can help, but talking is the big solution. And even to this day, although I go through waves where I'm good, I'm bad, I'm not good, I'm better, and things like that, I talk to people. And I think it's important to talk about this type of situation because it's hard to have mental health issues if you have a wonderful support group, But think about all the people with mental health issues on the streets, homeless people.
Right.
Doesn't even have to be homeless people, but people that are just on themselves or on their own during the pandemic. It could crush you.
Yeah. Are there still moments of struggle for you?
Absolutely. Anybody that says they have anxiety and depression and you're I don't care what anyone says, you can't cure it. There's no cure for it. There are things that can ease the problems. And it's not just one thing. In my experience, it's a combination of exercise, running, yoga, medication, talking to people, counseling, things like that, being careful with alcohol and drugs. Those are all big things you have to be careful about. But as of now, I'm fine. I'm doing okay. I'm having a great week. But depression and anxiety, they're like this stealth ninja that'll pop up out of nowhere.
That's good. Stealth ninja.
You could be having the best day of your life, and you'll wake up someday and you just feel sad. You could be with your family, your friends, your favorite people in the world, and you just shut down. You don't want to be around them. You don't want to talk to them for no reason. Right. And so I'm okay today, but who knows what I'll be like tomorrow or the next day. But I'm in a good space right now. I met somebody that I'm spending time with, and she's been really supportive and amazing, and that really helps. But I really feel for people that are by themselves during the pandemic, older people, younger people, elderly people, because if you're in a relationship, you hear people joking around about, oh, my wife's really getting on my back, or my husband, he's been driving me crazy. They have no idea that it may drive them crazy to an extent, but they always have those people around them for support, right. and they can just leave the room if they want to. But the people that are by themselves, it's really hard.
And I know that you kind of talked about the different vices that, somebody with, situations of anxiety could potentially turn to, alcohol, drugs. It's a big problem, especially during the pandemic.
Absolutely. And this is the one thing I thought was kind of interesting. So back in those early Frank the Tank photos, my before shots back in 2011, usually most of them are 2011, I was the textbook binge drinker. Drank a lot. So I could go a couple days without drinking, but when I would get together with my friends, I would go out and maybe drink 15 or 20 drinks, or have 8 to 10 beers, and maybe smoke a little bit, and things like that. But over time, I realized that stuff, although I thought it was helping me, it was crushing my brain. And so one of the things I've learned as I've gotten older is alcohol is great, but it's good in moderation. And so last year, actually, oddly enough, at the beginning of 2020, I woke up January 1st and I said, hey, I'm going to try no drinking. How long do you want to go? And I said, I have no idea. So I ended up going 6 months without drinking alcohol. Wow. And if anybody out there knows me, especially people that follow, like my closest friends and family, know how much I love to drink.
You love that craft beer.
I do love craft beer.
Yeah.
But so for me, I mean, there are people out there that have gone years without drinking, which is very impressive. But for me, 6 months was great. But everyone all over social media, I kept seeing people talk about, hey, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. Is that too early to drink? Ha 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 ha. It's like people thought it was funny. And what they don't realize is the rest of the world are kind of laughing at them. But to me, the pandemic was the easiest time to stop drinking, because at the beginning, I lived by myself. And because of social distancing, I wasn't able to get together with family or friends or go out to bars or parties or restaurants. So if I didn't have alcohol lying around, I didn't need them. And the longer I went without it, the easier it got. And so whenever I saw people, posting photos of, drinking 20 beers or a bunch of bottles of wine and stuff like that, that's fine. Everyone's got their own way of coping with this. But I used it actually to get in the best shape of my life, where I would do yoga or running or a home workout or both in the day. I wouldn't drink. I was eating properly because I needed to be mentally sharp, because when the nighttime came, I was by myself a lot, and it was awful. And so I wanted to make the most of that. And so that's why I'm proud of the 2020 pandemic. At the beginning, at least, I managed to get myself in some really good physical and mental shape as well.
So even with the pandemic, and you've been able to really take advantage of that time to make yourself that much more better.
Absolutely. When we have the perfect opportunity, like it's the whole adage, when life gives you lemons, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And so you could just sit back and do nothing, or you could make lemonade out of it. And so I chose to make the most of the situation. Like for me, I've always been an eternal optimist and positive. I always try to look at the best in things. And there were some moments that got really, really dark during the pandemic because I was by myself, and I was, struggling. And although Zoom chats are okay,
Right.
or FaceTime's okay, it's you miss the human connection and being able to touch somebody or hold them,
Absolutely.
or shake their hand or give a high five or stuff like that. But why I saw other people struggling with alcohol and drugs and things like that, I was like, because all I would do is just look at those photos that you posted of the before, back in my Frank the Tank days, and I said, I'm never going back to that. And so my friends throughout the whole time, they're like, when are you going to drink again? And I remember my friend Ash and my friend Leanne, we were out, and just the right opportunity came up. It was a gorgeous day, and my friend Ash said, "Oh, what are you going to drink?" And I said, "I'm going to have a real beer." And Ash, his face lit up. He goes, "I'm buying." And then, so basically, I still drink,
Yeah.
but for me, it's more about quality versus quantity, and I think that's what everybody should apply. But unfortunately, they don't.
Yeah.
When it comes to alcohol, it's everyone always talks about drugs being the worst thing in society, but I think everybody knows that alcohol is probably the worst thing out there.
You talk, and I've heard you talk about it before, but you kind of mentioned it twice already. The whole Frank the Tank name. Where did that come from?
So if anybody, like, so you could appreciate this because you're also a big movie, TV show buff or pop culture fan. So one of my favorite movies, like just like kind of like a goofy comedy, was the Frank the Tank, or sorry, the Will Ferrell movie Old School,
Okay.
with Vince Vaughn. And so
Yes, yes, yes.
there's a scene in that where like the main character, he's like a family guy, and then he gets kind of pulled back into like the frat boy lifestyle, and he really loves it. And so there are some kind of funny scenes where there's one scene where he's streaking down a main street in the town naked, and then there's other times where he's at a keg party, he's doing handstands, he's doing this. And although him and I are very different, there are some really good similarities between our partying. So
One of the things I really enjoy about you on social media is that you don't take yourself seriously. There's always this great attitude, a very positive attitude, and and you incorporate that into your running as well. This one post about the different modes when it's a hot summer day and you're running, and I found this to be really a good example of the type of positive type of social media that you can provide to people. And it's not that you're not being real, you are being real. It's very hot when you're running 30 degrees. It's not an easy run, but this is a great example of the type of reason why I think this is, you're such a great person for social media.
well, thanks. And that's the thing is uh, I guess when I got into social media, my friend Susie was the one saying you should do more about it, start posting more about your running and your weight loss journey and things like that. And but you don't have any idea what it's really like once you get into the social media world. It can become a bit of addictive, and you're
Yep.
always trying to figure out when to post, when not to post, what to
Yep.
post, and you
Yep.
compare yourself to others. And I think so. For a while, it kind of stressed me out, and I'm firmly convinced that we talk about alcohol and stuff like that, but I bet you one of the biggest triggers for people's mental health, especially during the pandemic, is social media. People
I
get
would agree with you.
addicted to it.
Yes.
People are on it, they're scrolling, they're worried about what to post and what to say and things like that. And it bothered me for a while because I was always trying to put that one post up each day, and it's exhausting. And anybody out there that's tried to do it, you've done it. All of our friends have tried to do it. It's exhausting. Um, and so finally one day I just like, you know what? It's kind of like my drinking, where it's more about quality versus quantity. So it would be, instead of posting every day, because people know when you're forcing or just
Sure.
posting for the sake of posting.
Yeah.
So I finally just said, hey, you know what? I'm going to post when I feel like it. Um, I look out at people that do the TikTok videos and all those videos that are doing this and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I've talked to my girlfriend and I said, I should be doing more of this and this, but I can't. I can't do those yet because it doesn't feel natural for me. And when you see a lot of those TikTok videos and those videos, a lot of them just seem like people aren't comfortable doing them and they're just doing them for the sake
For
of
the
it.
sake of doing them, yeah.
But don't get me wrong, there are some people that we follow, you've seen them, that are really good at it. And that's and so the reason for that is because you go with your personality. If you're a funny person, post funny content. If you're a good dancer, a good singer, or you're the life of the party, post that, because people need it, especially more than ever.
For sure.
But for me, I post about Shane because I am an easygoing, fun guy. But I've got a lot of messages from people going, when are you going to do a TikTok video? When are you going to do one of those pointing videos? And I can't yet. I don't know what I would post. I've tried to do, like, I do some stuff for my company that I work for. I do their social media, and I'm trying to do some more reels with them, and it's challenging enough. And so I'm not even in most of those. But for me, I just stick with who I am, post genuine content, and with my main goal of trying to help people out there.
One of the things I notice that you have a skill for, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you have a good skill set for bringing people together. And I've seen that so much over the last few years, and it's got to be hard because you can't really do that now during COVID. But you created this thing called Shane's Food Fun Runs, and I've been lucky to be a part of it before. But you managed to bring these people from all over, especially people that are just on Instagram, and then you just ask these people to come together and go for a run. And it's such a social thing. It's not even really about the run. It's such a social thing. How did that all come about?
I think for me, so if people were to ask me what my best traits or personality or skills would be maybe my kindness and empathy. But I think the thing that's number one for me that I don't realize is my ability to bring people together.
Yeah.
So it started the first time I went to weddings, where people were putting me at wedding tables with those odd couples or those awkward situations where the exes were sitting together, or
You're
relatives
that
that
guy.
hated each other. They would put me in between because I would bring everybody together and make
Yeah.
people laugh or have fun or feel comfortable or natural. And since getting into running, it's become more and more, because to me, running is about the people, not medals or PBs.
Right.
I saw an element of that when I started Run to Beer, which is my favorite thing that I've ever done in Toronto, which is you meet, you run XK, and then you finish with alcohol at the end. And it's more of a social thing. It's, there is a component of the beer, but for me, I really like that. I've always been really good at having parties at my place where be such a weird mix of people, like my neighbors, my coworkers, running friends, friends from the gym, friends from social media, and everybody would get along. And it would just be like, everybody would be like, there's such a weird mix of people, but it's awesome.
Right.
And so I thought, I figured there's a way that I could do that with running, because I love food, and I realized not everybody likes alcohol. And so that's kind of what started the idea. My friend Dash and I really loved running, and we'd have food or running and have a burger or whatever. And so I just decided to pick places I want to go to. And then I would post a message on social media saying, guys, I'm running here. Who wants to join me? And then it became more organized, where I contacted the restaurants in advance, found out their capacity. Usually we would do about 15 to 20 people. I would basically create an invitation where people could sign up and register, get their spots before they fill up. And then they would just send me their food orders. And then the day of the event, we would meet at Union Station, run 5 to 10K, and then we would finish right at the restaurant where they would have our food waiting.
Right.
And as you've seen, it's same thing, mix of running friends, colleagues, social media friends, really important people in my life. All of those people would get together, and to me, it was just like my social media mantra, which is I reject negativity. And to me, it's all about positive vibes. Um, I want everybody to have fun and feel comfortable. I've done this at my run clubs. I don't want any jerks being there. I don't care if you're a fast runner or
Yeah.
I don't care if you've won the Boston Marathon 20 times. If you're a jerk, just get away. No one wants to be around that, because especially for newer runners, it's intimidating being around runners because you think you'll be the worst and you'll be the slowest.
Yeah.
So when we do these food fun runs, it's about the food and the social aspect, and then there's a run thrown in there. But for me, I want everybody to feel comfortable, and so over time, it's kind of gotten bigger. I think I ended up doing 10 so far. We had to stop it obviously because of COVID, but
Right.
I'm definitely resuming them as soon as things ease up a bit. But
Yeah, I
I
hope you
love
do.
seeing I love seeing the smiles on people's faces, and I love seeing everybody become friends with each other or become connected on social media. So for
Well,
me, just like my other stuff, I don't make anything off it. It's
yeah.
more just it's just to see the happiness in people's faces.
I think what spoke volumes of, like, when I first participated in one of those, and I met a lot of new people, but a lot of people were like, well, how did you meet Shane? Through social media. How did you meet Shane? Through that person. How did you meet Shane? It was just so eye opening what an impact you had with regards to getting these people together. And the other thing I really liked about those runs, you talk about how some people, they might be worried about, I don't want to run with fast people, or I'm too slow for that. And at some points, the lineup of people would spread out, but you would still be going up and down those that line of people to make sure everybody from the front all the way to the back were okay. They were enjoying themselves, and you'd stop to, you'd run with some of them, talk to them. I think that speaks such huge volumes about the type of person that you are.
And to me, it's really important because I want people to feel comfortable and enjoy the experience. The one thing I noticed from a lot of the runs I've done is there's a lot of repeat people, but there's also a lot of newer people coming that have come out to them. And one thing a lot of people said was they never really felt comfortable in group runs, or never really, it wasn't that they didn't like them, they just didn't feel comfortable, or they were a little bit nervous or worried about being in groups with the run.
Mm-hmm.
And doing these food fun runs has kind of changed them, and that they ended up really loving them. And then some of them were my biggest supporters. And so for me, because as you probably know, in running, there are a lot of people that suffer from social anxiety issues,
Yes.
or self-esteem issues, or
Yep.
they just feel awkward or shy. And it's the thing is even people are dying to do stuff. There are people out there that are just looking forward to meeting people, doing things. And so for me, I'm like the facilitator, or I just I set up a venue or an event to bring people together, whether it's the run clubs, the food fun runs, those Zoom chats that we've done. Um, so you can do those. You're even an example of bringing people together during COVID with these conversations,
Right.
because it resonates with people all over the world. So um, yeah, for me, it's just I really enjoy seeing the happiness that these types of things bring people.
What's you've been doing all these runs. What's your favorite post-run meal?
Everyone knows that I'm very partial to maker pizza.
Love their pizza.
Although there is some contenders coming up. Blondie's was really good. So I love pizza, uh, but I also really enjoy burgers. But although pizza is my favorite thing, I like burgers a lot. Um, and so I've already thought about places like you. What you didn't see is on my phone I've got this ongoing note of the places we've been to, but there's all these places. I just use little emojis with the burger, pizza icon, places I want to go to. And there's still 15, 20 places we need to go to. So COVID needs to hurry the hell up and finish.
Good, because you always pick good places for food afterwards, and I love how it's really supporting the smaller restaurants, but the ones that are really working hard to stay open. And they make such great food, and it's just about finding these places.
Absolutely, and that's the big thing. And actually, someone mentioned this recently that so I did it more just to help people, bring people together, also eat delicious food and things like that. But especially the last year, it puts more of an emphasis on supporting local businesses. And don't get me wrong, I like McDonald's, I like Harvey's, and all these places. They're fine. I don't eat it very often, but if I want a burger, I'm not going there. No one's going to go to McDonald's for a burger
Yeah,
when they have the opportunity for places like Rudy,
yeah,
Kraft.
yeah.
There's a place in Hamilton that I discovered called Hamburger. Like, you can have so many better burgers. I get why fast food's popular because it's affordable, but um, don't get me wrong, I love food. Just thinking about it right now, Paul's killing me because
I
I'm
know.
thinking about
I'm
what I'm going to
getting
have for
hungry
lunch.
too, and I've never heard of those places too. So participating in those runs and trying those restaurants, I actually want to go back to those restaurants, whenever we can. But
Well, yeah, for me, it's just a big way because it helps people, brings people together, but also exposes them to some pretty cool places that they might not go to on their own or not have found out about. But it also because the bulk of the people that come out, it doesn't cost people anything besides their food or their drinks.
right.
But the one thing I always ask about is, do me a favor. These restaurants have been really helpful and supportive and kind. Please show them some love on social media, post some photos, tag them, post photos of their food, because that helps businesses. Even to this day, when we can't do anything, you can still support local businesses by doing reviews, posting photos of their food, ordering takeout, delivery, and things like that.
Well, I must say I have enjoyed them, and I always bring some of the people from the West End over to participate, and they've all loved it as well. So we look forward to doing more of them with you.
Yeah, and I've already thought about doing events in Ottawa because I have a lot of friends there and family there, but I've spent a lot of time in Hamilton, so that's probably going to be on my list in the near future as
Oh,
well.
awesome!
So
Good.
yeah, I want to kind of take it to other cities just for fun as well. So
So back in January, you had a 30-day run streak. Have you ever done something like that before?
no, I think the big thing with COVID is I love racing. I don't really miss the races that much. I just miss the people, the energy that day, and things like that. But the one thing that is good about races is, as you know, is that it's a really good way to test yourself, push yourself, challenge yourself, and it's a goal. And for a while, although I was running a lot during the COVID situation, I kind of got bored and I was kind of missing something, some type of challenge. For the most part, I was just running for the pure enjoyment of running because I kind of fallen out of love with it.
Right.
But and then I just started seeing people doing these push-up challenges, these squat challenges, these different running type of challenges. And then there was a woman, I think her name was Emily, had posted this 30-day running challenge, and I started to follow her a bit, and it was pretty cool. And so I thought to myself, that might be pretty interesting. But so just one day, I just decided to do it, and it was an awesome experience. But it was 30 days doesn't sound like much, but it was tough, especially when you're getting older, because I like to run, but I rarely ran more than 2 or 3 days in a row because my body was tired. I got diagnosed with a heart condition a few years ago. So that kind of affects my energy and my fatigue and stuff like that. So I really need to listen to my body like you're
Right.
supposed to. So what I did was, my goal was 5K each time I ran for the 30 days in a row. Now, what I didn't realize from people that are doing these 50-day streaks or 100 days, or there are people that did 1,100-day streaks of running, I didn't realize that they would also include a 1K run once in a while
Hmm.
just to keep their streak going.
Right. Right.
And so I needed to do that. I think some of those people don't do that, which is fine. And some people
Yeah.
do like 10K a day and 15K a day.
Yeah.
But for me, I needed that because there's some days where I just woke up and my body was sore and tired. And so I would just immediately throw my gear on, head out. And then sometimes I'm like, just go out for 1K. And most times I did 5, just or 6. Um, but there were some times where my body felt sore. Not necessarily injured. There was a little bit of a period where I had a slight knee issue, but if for any reason I thought it was serious, I'd never would have pushed it.
Right.
But I just did it as more of a physical, mental goal. And it got easier for sure, but I'm not going to lie to you, that 30th day, um, it was tough. Um, and I also got lost, and it ended up being 8K instead of 5K. I ended up running on an on ramp of a highway. I
Oh my
ended up
goodness.
crossing, probably, so whatever anyone's listening, just do not do anything I was just telling you about this. But let's just say when you saw my Strava the next day, it was like all over the place, and my tights were all covered in dirt and thorns because I had
Wow.
fallen through this thing. Anyways, it was an awesome experience. I definitely suggest everybody tries it. Um, I felt great afterwards. I was probably in even better shape afterwards. But yeah, it's definitely something I would encourage, but just take it easy. Don't go fast, go at
Mhm.
your own pace, and just have fun.
Back in 2019, you had your first marathon, Toronto Waterfront. And leading up to it, you were posting about the things you were preparing, how you were preparing mentally, talking to people, getting an idea of what to expect. How was that experience for you?
I think I don't think I could have asked for a better first marathon experience.
Yeah.
My friend Leanne gave me a tip because she's run a bunch of distances and she's raced all over the place. And the one thing she had told me was the good thing about Scotia, it's an awesome course, but you have the hometown advantage. You know the transit, you know how to get there, you can control a lot of the variables of race day. And it's hard if you go other places around the world, especially if it's your very first marathon. And
Right.
um, I experienced everything from happiness and joy when I was just crushing the first half marathon of that day. Saw my parents. It was amazing. They met me at the 22K mark, right down at
Oh,
Queens
that's
Quay
awesome.
area, or someplace around Queens Quay, I think. But saw them. Then I went around the corner, um, and I made the mistake of doing some social media stuff during the race.
Oh boy.
But I had to because it was part of this thing that I was doing um, with a couple companies that were
Right.
supporting me. So I did that and was just doing that as part of my contract. But do yourself a favor. If you're ever doing your very first marathon, don't take photos, don't take video, don't take Instagram stories or lives. Just don't, because that's where the wheels fell off the bus.
Ah,
And especially that part where you're going up the Bayview extension and
yes.
around,
Yep.
that's such a tricky spot. And it's basically just downhill from there. And but then on the way back, my friend Leanne, once again, she surprised me with about 2 or 3 kilometers left. I get goosebumps just thinking about this, but I was running around the corner. I just saw someone standing there, and she goes, "Okay, buddy, let's do this." And I just remember, like, I don't even remember what I was saying, but it was something along the lines of, "I don't feel so good. I can't. I don't know if I can do this." And she's like, "You can do this. Let's get going." And so we just basically did like light jogging, shuffling, maybe a little bit of walking at some point, over the overpass as we headed down towards, I think it's Bay Street.
Yep.
And then I saw one of my really good friends at the time and her daughter. They came and ran with me. And then
That's awesome.
one of my buddies from the running world, Mark St. Louis, who I had seen earlier, he was a course marshal. He joined us. I think
Wow.
part of it was because he wanted to run me in, but also I think part of it was because I didn't look very good. I felt like the leaning tower of Pisa moving down the street, and so I didn't think my race could get any better. Then I get around the corner, 250 meters from the final stretch, and I saw my Run to Beer team there. And normally with Run to Beer, you have a friend that hands out the beer to you. So you have a can, an unopened can of beer to run down the stretch and then crack open as you cross the finish line. But when I looked around the corner, it was my mom and my dad handing out the can.
Oh, that's awesome.
And and it was amazing. And so they actually somebody got it on video as well, and it was really cool experience. So it was like Popeye getting spinach. As soon as I saw them, as soon as I got that can, I took off. Like, I should just have somebody run with a beer can in front of me for an entire race, because that might help me. But I crossed the finish line, and it was an awesome experience. I literally hit every emotion possible, and
Yeah.
like, I can't say enough good things about Leanne, Mark, my
Such amazing
parents, my
support.
well, yeah, and the Run to Beer people. Like, that's why I talk so much about them. That's why,
Yeah.
like, I'm not around them as much as I used to be, and I kind of drifted apart a little bit. But that was really what made a big difference with my day, because somebody went out of their way to get my parents
Right.
and give them the beer can. And
Right.
I'll never forget that. I've got that photo and that video, and I'll never forget that experience.
I do remember seeing a clip of that, and seeing your parents hand off the beer to you. I forgot about it till you just mentioned it, but that must have been so amazing to see. You know, I mean, they're your parents. I mean, to have them support you is amazing, right? So
Yeah, it was the best moment of my life. I think it was one of them. It was awesome.
oh, that's awesome. Well, before we end off, we always ask our guests quick 10 questions. Just, flash them away, and then you provide a quick answer. So you ready?
Let's do this.
Okay. Shane, who's a runner you'd love to meet, past or present?
I always butcher his name, but Kipchoge. Actually, Usain Bolt as well.
Okay.
I think those are. But I have already met a lot of amazing people like Lanny and Krista and Reed Coolset, Trevor Hoffbauer,
Yes.
Dana. I couldn't ask to meet really anybody. Those are my favorite type of people to meet.
Gary Robbins, too.
Oh, Gary. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gary. Yeah, Gary was one of my favorites as well.
Yeah. 2 or 3 words that best describe Shane Dixon.
Kind, caring, and positive, I guess.
Favorite snacking food during this lockdown?
Oh my God. Probably chocolate. Like
Chocolate.
chocolate. There are people that are sweet. There are people that are savory. I like both. I don't discriminate. I'll eat anything. But for me, it's probably some type of chocolate.
Most favorite accomplishment?
My marathon would be one. 30-day challenge would be one. My ongoing career transition is probably the biggest one.
Who inspires you to run?
I run for myself, but I think about my dad, my brother, my mom, and my family, and my sister as well. I do it for my family, and I do it for my own personal physical and mental health.
Bucket list race you want to run?
It's this one. I always butcher the title, but I think it's a 20K race in Paris. It's called like the 20 kilometers of Paris or something like that.
Okay.
That would be number one on my bucket list, or maybe a race in Tokyo.
What would the title of your autobiography be? As the sun is just like shining on me here. So.
That's a great one. Keep going, don't give up. Like anything along that lines, because there's been some times where I've wanted to, and I've just kept going for whatever reason.
2 words to describe your running, your passion for running.
I would say people and self-improvement.
Finish this sentence. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a blank when I grow up.
Probably something to do with food or cooking. Maybe a baseball player like Gary Carter, but I think that might have been changed now. If I'd known about Anthony Bourdain when I was younger, that would be the job I'd want.
Well, that's a great job too. So, what advice would you give yourself 10, 15 years ago?
Be careful with money. Be careful with drugs and alcohol. There's nothing wrong with drugs or alcohol in moderation, just experimenting a little bit, some of them. But I guess the key is moderation.
Right. And what's up next for Shane Dixon?
Who knows? Just keeping busy with running, life, trying to get through this pandemic like everybody else. But I think the big thing for me is solving the career situation. And so I've been doing a lot of social media stuff, working on my digital marketing skills. I'm taking a course and things like that because just like I did at the beginning of the pandemic, where I was focusing on my physical and mental health, I'm working on more self-improvement this year, which is around my skills and my career.
Well, if anybody's watching this, if they think that Shane's going to be a good fit for their organization, we'll have all his contact info there at the end. So
Yeah, sounds great.
Somebody reach out to you. But Shane,
Awesome.
I just want to thank you for participating on this call today. And I think, as I mentioned at the top, you're a very, positive individual who's very real on social media, and the things that you're doing, not just for advocating for mental health, but for the running community and getting people together, are just amazing things that you're doing.
Well, thanks very much. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you. Like, you're one of my favorite people in the running world, and just in general, you're just a great guy, and I love what you're doing. I think that's why you and I get along so well, is we have a lot of similarities with regards to doing good things and helping people and giving back to the running community.
Awesome. Thank you, Shane. I appreciate you saying that. And I look forward to running with you again.
No problem. We'll definitely have to have a run in something delicious at the end.
For sure. All right. Thanks for joining us today. And thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time. Have a great day, everyone.